Tasya Saptadha Pranta Bhumihi Pragnya.
Tasya Saptada Prajna. That means Saptada Prantha means there are 7 stages. When we said in the earlier one, Viveka Khyate Abhilapya Aunopyaha. That means the ignorance is destroyed. Yeah, awareness of knowledge. That's what we are talking about. Miral was talking all along in this conversation. How does that happen? That happens in 7 stages. Tasya Saptada means 7. Saptada Pranta Bhubi Pragya. Pragya means that knowledge, that attainment of that situation. What are the 7 stages? No, I think he's just mentioning, he's not showing it here. So what I will do is I prepared from through another text that they identified the 7 stages. Let me see whether I can share. I'm sorry?
I'm in a class.
Did you buy wine for Will?
Yes.
Yeah, I will try to share this piece, this one which is not there in. Patanjali just mentions, he does not show it. So let me show it for you guys. Are you able to see?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, big enough? Yeah?
I'm going to write this down while we're looking at this.
Yeah. So Mary, are you able to see?
Yes, I see it. Yeah.
Okay. There are 7 stages of knowledge. This I am taking reference from other yoga books and other philosophy books. The first stage is called Subhecha. Subhecha, actually. What it means is, Icha means desire. Like Meryl was talking today in the beginning of this conversation. I am very desirous that, I want to intensify my practice so that I get that enlightenment. No? That is Shubha Icha. That means, yeah, a good or pure desire. Right? It's loosely translated as a longing for truth, because of the implied meaning, the literal meaning is Shubha Icha means pure desire. That means desire can be 2 ways. Some of the desires can pull us down, but some of the desires can pull us up, because wanting to be pure is also a desire. Right? Wanting to go on and murder somebody is also a desire. But there is a difference between the two. One is a Shubha Icha, other is Ashubha Icha. Shubha Icha means a good desire, longing for the truth. That is the stage 1. What you probably, you articulated is you are in the stage 1 of Shubha Icha. The second stage is, as you keep pursuing this, following this desire to get enlightenment, you get into what is called Vicharana. That is
The right inquiry.
exactly. Again, I'm sorry, somebody saying something?
No.
Okay. For example, when you said, Mirel, that, oh, I spent 20 hours by train, I went to the mountain in China, and they're talking, all these people are talking and talking, etc. Do they really mean what they say, or they're just talking theoretically? So many different statements you made. That statement is an output of inquiry. They are all saying, this person is saying that, Padirov is saying that, somebody else is saying this. That's all fine. But does it look authentic? How am I judging they're authentic or not? Are they following it? Am I seeing signs that they are following it? If they are not following it, why are they parroting these statements? What do they mean by this? These are all inquiry which is happening in your mind. That is the Vicharana stage. Definitely you are there because that's what you did right now, half an hour back. The next stage is Tanu Manasana. That means the mind, right, has to be quietened. Why? Because the chitta vritti, the cogitations of the chitta happen in mind. What is chitta? A combination of mind, buddhi, ahankara tattva is called chitta. Buddhi is an instrument. It is neither impacted positively nor negatively. Likewise, ahankara tattva is a mere identification, identifier, an ID badge kind of a thing. It is the mind which can go up and down, get involved, etc. That needs to be quietened. Why? What will you get by quietening that mind? When you quieten the mind, automatically you start understanding you are not the mind. Because you observe it is agitated, you observe it is quietened, therefore it becomes an object. Therefore, you are not the mind. There's additional benefit in quietening the mind, and that is, why does mind get agitated? Because it gets connected with all kind of objects and thoughts. That is why it gets agitated. Like a calm pond, a pool, will remain calm, placid, until you throw a stone. Once you throw a pebble at it, automatically ripples will form, it will go and go. And if you notice the ripple, it will keep on expanding in diameter. It becomes bigger and bigger until it reaches all the shores. That is how it's called samparka in Sanskrit. It is good. Every time mind get connected, touched, influenced, samparka. And whenever mind gets influenced by any external object, physical or thought, that's what waves created and expands all over and occupies everything. That needs to be quietened. Quiet mind is an indicator that it is not doing any samparka with anything else. It is not getting connected with any object. Therefore, it becomes very, very important. This stage, Tanu Manasana state, you will achieve two ways. One, by sitting in a Padmasana, Siddhasana, or Sukhasana, you meditate. During the process of meditation, automatically the mind quietens. By breath pranayama, mind quiet. There is a deep connection between breath, pranayama, prana, and manas, mind. You do pranayama to quieten the mind. That is one way of quietening the mind. Other way of quietening the mind is, some of us who are given to music, for example, when you listen to music, I'm not talking about the noisy pop music. I'm talking about any classical music of any type, whether it is Western classical music or the Indian classical music, are designed, the notes are designed to give out sounds of specific frequencies. And there are 7 notes, as you know, in India they got sa re ga ma pa da ni. I think you say what are 7 notes here? You hear it in Sound of Music, right? The 7 notes are there, do re me, etc. So those notes are designed so that when it is either uttered or through music it is given out, it creates frequencies, sound frequencies, which is resonating with the various chakras in the body. There's enough research has been done in various hospitals, including Mass General, Mayo Clinic, and others, Harvard Hospital, etc., and other countries as well, correlating how these notes can influence the mind and intellect, quite, and how it can do that. In fact, there is even though it is disproved, for a long time people believe that if you listen to Mozart, you become a genius. Yeah, you don't, but fact remains that if you listen to Mozart, you become calm, or Beethoven, you become calm, so on and so forth. Therefore, that is why you do the quietening of the mind, either through yoga meditation or through listening to music, classical music, or some of the artists who paint, Michelangelo kind of, I'm very, very sure people like Michelangelo went into samadhi several times as they paint. That is the nature of the activity. That is called Tanu Manasana. The next state is Sattvapati. Sattva means pure. We know that the three gunas are there: sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattva always indicates purity in anything. Sattvapati means purification. You purify yourself, your intellect, your mind, etc. That is the next stage. Then, if you are able to achieve quietening the mind and go into a stage of Sattvapati, automatically you develop an indifferent attitude. Asam Shakti stage you get into. Why? Because a need or a desire to possess happens only on two conditions. One, you should think that you are not complete without it, therefore you need it. Right? And then you make your effort through desire to possess that. Now we have a fundamental problem in this thinking because we say, that is Yoga Sutras say, the Atma, which is the inner core consciousness of Jiva, is self-complete. It does not need anything at all. In which case, when you are the Atma, when you are self-complete, when you don't need anything at all to attain happiness or peace, thinking that you need some other object or some other person to complete yourself is an erroneous thinking. That is why we say Asam Shakti happens, you become indifferent not because you're disrespectful of the value of the person or object, not because you are suppressing the desire, but because you understand that you are self-complete. But that realization that you are self-complete can only happen if your intellect is able to tell you very clearly. That is why Sattvapati becomes very important. And Sattvapati cannot happen unless the mind is quiet. Tanumanana becomes very important. Mind does not become quiet unless you inquire properly. Vicharana becomes important. You don't even go to attain this Vicharana unless you have a desire for enlightenment. Subha Icha becomes very, very important. So when you cross this stage 5 of Asam Shakti, of developing an indifferent attitude, what happens is Padartha Abhavana happens. Padartha means they have in Yoga Sutra and associated texts, they have identified entities, material categories called Padartha. It is like our, what do you call the periodic table in chemistry, identified so many types of matter. Anything and everything in the world is a combination of some of the matter in the periodic table. Likewise, from the philosophy, metaphysics, cognitive psychology perspective, there is a very standard text written thousands of years back, several hundred years back, maybe 1,000, 2,500 years back or whatever, which define what are those categories of elements in the universe. It's from the cognitive psychology perspective, with which you can define the entire universe. The difference between material periodic table, Mendeleev's table, and this, it is called Vaisheshika, yeah, or even the Sankhya model gives that, is that those categories are not defined as lifeless, consciousnessless entities like Mendeleev table does, but more in terms of how human mind experiences the universe. From that perspective, they try to define these categories. Because mind is intertwined with all the categories, since we have got indifferent attitude, Asam Shakti, because of the pure intellect, Sattva-pati, because we did Subhaicha, Vicharana, Tanumanasana, etc., we are able to see that none of the categories, none of the padarthas are needed for self-fulfillment. Therefore, what you do is when you have padartha abhavana, when you develop, you transcend the material categories. This is the important thing. Abhavana is a very important word. It is not about suppressing. It is not about denying. It is not about turning your back, to not to be influenced by that. If you turn your back from something because you don't want to be influenced by that, then we have a problem because that something is inside your mind already. So you can't run away from yourself. In fact, that is why, from metaphysics point of view, some people would take a very severe objection to methods like putting a wheel on the face, a veil from the face, or the burqa, etc. Because what are you trying to say? Covering the object of your desire is the only way you can remain untainted or not attracted. That means you already have that object in your mind. What will you do with that? The real indifference comes when the presence or absence of this object of your desire, so-called desire, does not impact you any which way. That's because you transcended the notion. You are gotten away from the notion that this entity, either a thought or a particular object, is needed so that you feel fulfilled or complete. You go into the state. That is called Padartha Abhavana. Then final stage is called the Turiya stage, which is called the fourth state of consciousness. What is this Turiya state? I will talk about it. But first, let me ask you whether you have any questions on this. Has anybody else joined here? I see a couple of new blobs. That's only Viral duplicating herself. Okay. All right. Any other question on this? Okay. Yeah, Manjula. So do you have any questions on this? I don't know what point Manjula joined. Any question on these 7 stages of knowledge?
No. I have a question.
Yes.
Just to be, Mr. Rao, would you please kindly just clear up something? So I think quieting the mind is very, very important. That's the beginning of everything, right? But quieting the mind can be done with techniques, what you mentioned, but also through pranayama practice. And because pranayama is like like air, is like a bridge, right, between body and mind, and it opens a space within us. And what would you say to practice? Should we practice alangana breathing when we breathe down and we extend the breath, because that gives quietness? Or should we practice what I practiced up to this point, Brahmana breathing, when you breathe upward, you actually open your head, or you collect the energy in your head? Or should the energy be collect, or this air or this space could collect in the belly? Which one would which technique would lead to this kind of quiet mind? My experience is that when it's a lot of Brahmana breathing, I did see that some yogis, of course I cannot do it at that level, they pull up their whole in the belly, and they pull it up and move up everything. Of course, I'm definitely not even close to that level, but kind of try to practice, pull the belly in, breathe up. There are times when I can really breathe up very high. There are times when I can just move up to my like middle part of my body. But And when I do that, after a while, maybe the heart area or a head area, I don't know how to explain because I didn't study this, so I can just share my experience, gets really light, full of air or light, not light, air. I didn't see any light or nothing like that. So what would you suggest? What technique would be better, Langana or Brahmana technique?
Okay, I have no answer, to be very honest, because like I said, I am not so much into this Hatha Yoga, though I use it. I have read quite a lot about it. There are different, a sequence of, a combination of such techniques are generally taught. Therefore, I do not think I can answer you that question. If other yoga masters here, whether it's Mary or Manjula, can throw weight on that, I will let them do that. But this much I know, that there are a few breathing exercises or taught or picked up, particularly from Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which can be designed as a combination. Kapalbhati is supposedly one of the best techniques to do that. What you say has elements of Kapalbhati, but that is supposedly the one which is, again, these are all, I want to be very careful here. These are all terms used to explain, but not necessarily that's how it is happening. For example, if you're doing a perfect Kapalbhati for several times a day, they say that after that, when you sit in Padmasana, you're able to channelize Kundalini through the Sushumna Nadi. I suppose all of us know the three nadis, Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Do I need to explain that, or we are aware of it?
Yes, if you could explain that also, that would be wonderful.
Right. So the way they connect the pranayama and this purity of the mind, body, or the intellect, and then finally the final enlightenment. The way they do it is that the chakras, all of us know, right? We heard about it. At the crown here,
yes,
is supposedly a Sahasrara chakra, a 1,000-petal lotus. Again, this is not that if you break it open ahead, you will see a lotus. No, it's explained like that to indicate the importance or the value. Here in the Sahasrara chakra, Shiva lies there waiting. Who is Shiva? Commonly, people may think Shiva is God. Shiva Linga we know, and Rudra, Shiva, various names they give. But Shiva has an attribute called Shivam. That is peace, calm, serenity. That is a signal of enlightenment. So that awaits. For what? Shiva waits for his partner, Shakti, to mate. That is the way it is told. Yoga is joining. Therefore, figuratively, it is told that he is waiting for his partner, Shakti. And where is that Shakti? That Shakti, unfortunately, is not here in all living beings, but in human beings. Normally, it lies in the Mooladhara chakra. If you take the spinal cord, right? If you take the central nervous system and take the brain and then take the spinal cord, at the tip of the bottom tip of the spinal cord is the place called Mooladhara chakra. That Shakti is there, figuratively they say, and generally all of us use that Shakti, means power, energy rather. We use that energy for all physical activities like exercise or running around or games or sexual activities, so on and so forth, instead of letting that Shakti travel up to Sahasrara chakra and be with Shiva. So they say that for as long as that Shakti is in the Mooladhara chakra, so much away, you will never get peace. So you need to draw that power, Shakti, energy through all intermediate chakras, either at the genitals or at the navel or at the abdomen or at the chest, solar plexus, or at the throat here, or in between, Burur Madhya, in between here, and finally come here. And what is the channel through which this energy is taken up? Through a nadi called Sushumna Nadi, the central canal which connects the lowermost bottom of this backbone to the the crown of the head. That channel is called figuratively Sushumna Nadi. And what do we do instead of bringing the energy up? We use this Shakti, it's called Kundalini Shakti. It is called Kundalini because it is coiled. It is coiled. The symbology is a coiled spring because what does the coiled spring have? It has got a potentially energy. If you release the spring, it can come and do a lot of. We have seen that spring is used in so many instruments and machines. Without spring, it will stop. Therefore, the energy is stored in the form of a coiled spring called Kundalini, and that is generally frittered away through two other channels called Ida and Pingla.
Yes.
Therefore, day to day, we are wasting that energy through Ida and Pingla, and we need a technique through which we can draw this energy out from the Muladhara chakra and take it up and up and up and up and bring it to here where Shiva is waiting. That merging between Shiva and Shakti is supposedly the liberation, moksha state, or the illumination or enlightenment. That is where you get the Turiya state of consciousness, which we mentioned in the 7th stage. And as the Kundalini rises at different stages, you have different experiences. And those of us, how do you rise it? Through pranayama. That is where pranayama starts becoming. But pranayama, taking this Kundalini to the central channel called Sushumna Nadi, has to be smooth. You do not want to put hurdles on the way. Therefore, it becomes very important that your backbone is erect like this, vertical like this, not bent, not slouched.
Yes.
Therefore, you need a stable asana.
We are back to the absolute wisdom of Yoga Sutras, when we should start we should practice a lot of asana first before we even do, just get a lot of strength, because we will need it for pranayama, right?
Absolutely.
Physical health and strength.
Exactly. That is why we say that yoga, which in Ashtanga yoga, is very important, not just Hatha yoga. Hatha yoga is merely various postures and various asanas and pranayama. There are several. Bastrika is a technique, Kapalbhati is a technique, right? So many bandhas are there. They are all there. We will go, like I said the other day, we need to, once we are done with this Patanjali Yoga Sutra, we need to go into Hatha Yoga Pradipika and then go. It's a very big text. We have to be patiently going through that. That will give us a lot of insights. But the fact remains, you learn something, Vicharana you do. That's what we are doing right now, Vicharana, while talking to each other. But then we have to practice. Right? That is where I'm going slow, and I'm also having this conversation once in 2 weeks. The idea is that you have 2 weeks of practice, and then we talk for an hour or two. Thereby, we meet the specifications of Miral, who says, enough talking, let's act. And she keeps saying, right? We talk less, 2 hours only we talk, but we practice for 2 weeks. That is very important. During that practice of doing asanas, getting into Siddhasana or Padmasana or whatever asana you is comfortable to you, where you can retain your backbone vertical like this without slouching, etc. Doing pranayama techniques, quieten the mind, do the dhyana, then you feel Kundalini rising. You should feel Kundalini rising. How would you feel that Kundalini is rising? I'm sure when I explain this, many of you will relate to your respective experiences. And if you want, you can talk about it. You will feel Kundalini is rising because first of all, you will get disconnected from the external world. The external noises, sounds, etc. no longer distract you. You may still hear it because ears are open, eardrum is functioning, brain is still functioning. Therefore, the brain will register a noise. Somebody speaking some music. Suddenly, the New York police siren, you hear that. But what happens is the inner core prajnanam, the atma, right? The chitta at the minimum, generally would run after that. Now you merely observe that there is a sound going on, whereas your focus, internal focus, is on your soul, atma. I'm not using soul in the Christian sense, I'm using here on the yoga sense. They mean differently actually. So in the yoga sense, there is a soul, atma, you are focused on that. Why? Because that atma is self-luminous, self-sufficient, self-complete, doesn't need anything else. And it is an illumination by itself. Therefore, we call it as a prajnanam. And why that is so important? Because that is Brahma. Prajnanam Brahma is the Veda statement. Who is that Brahma? That Brahma, in this context, is the Ishvara Tattva, which Yoga Sutra talks about. In other words, that infinite Ishvara, who takes care of anything and everything sentient all over the universe, a portion of that Ishvara is inside you as your prajnanam. Therefore, to answer your question in the beginning today, Miral, you don't need Carnegie's millions to go and give a big donation to Dalai Lama and learn from him. You don't need it because the person who taught Dalai Lama, that is Ishvara, is inside you and he is not charging you a penny. That's why I said it is not at all necessary to be rich. It is not all necessary to be born in India. It is not all necessary to be born as a male working with Guru. None of this is necessary. Therefore, we use these techniques. We start realizing this as Kundalini rises. And Kundalini rises to the here, to the solar plexus. You can feel that you are filled with light. Sometimes you have a golden glow. You can sense a golden glow here. Very bright, but because it's internal, it does not hurt your eyes. Who is this golden glow? Again, I have to go to Vedas, and Vedas explain this. I think I did explain this a few times back, a few sessions back. Now, in a sloka called Narayana Sukta, in Vedas, say that is the Ishvara Narayana who resides here, like so bright, like a lightning which you see behind a dark cloud, in front of a dark cloud, 1,000 times of it. Inverted lotus, blue Lord, if you remember all those words. So that is why you see that when you see that golden hue, the blue light, etc., you like it so much. Nothing else can come near that. That is how you get Padartha Abhava, which I mentioned in stage 6. When you have that Narayana in you, when you are enjoying the bliss of Narayana, Nothing else in the world can come anywhere near that. And therefore, you don't hanker after anything else at all. You transcend, you don't suppress. You transcend. You transcend why? Because you got, if you got all the riches in the world, why are you bothered about small little piece here and there? Like that. Then as Kundalini rises further and further and comes here, in between the two eyebrows, you feel you're expanding. You're so huge yourself. You are the universe. It's not that you are in the universe, you are the universe. Your consciousness spreads, expands and expands and expands so much. All the stars, all the moons, everything you cross, you see that. Sometimes what happens is your consciousness go outside so much, you start seeing yourself as a body. Again, it answers Miral's question. Once you start seeing yourself as an object of your observation, you no longer identify yourself with your body, and therefore you don't have the problems of worrying about the body. And sometimes what happens is not only your consciousness expands and expands and expands, you feel that you're spinning like a top. If you're a top spinning at, I don't know, 100,000 revolutions per minute RPM, that kind of spin, you'll be spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning like a top, and your consciousness will continue to expand and expand and expand. You feel it is called the Virat Swarupa in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna shows he is the universe in Bhagavad Gita. That feeling of what Krishna felt, or that Krishna demonstrated, you yourself will feel. It is called the Virat Swarupa. The entire universe is you. You see it first, then you become the universe. But when you take it out from here and go up to here, when finally, as they say symbolically, when Shakti and Shiva meet here, you lose your self-identity completely. That Ahankara Tattva is sublimated completely. There is no feeling of I at all. Here you feel, you still have that identity. You think that I am the universe. When you say I am the universe, you have retained the self-identity. But when you go here, when the Kundalini Shakti goes here, the self-identity goes. What remains is very difficult to explain other than saying that what remains is only you, nothing else in the world, nothing else in the universe, because only you. When there is only you, there is no question of I, you, this, that at all. Instead, you have a sense of unalloyed, infinite bliss wave. Ananda Lahari, it is called. Waves of bliss. That is the stage 7, which I mentioned on the 7 stages of knowledge, called a Turiya state. Why Turiya? Why it is called 4th state of matter? Because normally, as we are talking to each other now, I think this I have explained multiple times. Let me do it again for completion. Normally, we are in a wakeful state, which means we have a self-identity, that is who I am. We have a recognition, cognition of everything else, and we have a differentiation between everything else and us. That is waking state. I am so-and-so, this is laptop, that is light, this is that, etc. Then the dream state, the objects remain, but not as real physical object, but as impressions, memories, and thought of those objects. We play the part of everything. We are ourselves, and we are everything as we see in the dream, including the people. Some people show up in our dream. They are not coming. We are acting their part. Our memories take their form. So we act as everybody else. In fact, dream is also an indication that you are everything. You play everything in dream state. That is the 2nd state of consciousness. The 3rd state of consciousness is called Sushupti, in which you do not have the dreams. That means the differentiated quote unquote other objects have ceased to exist even as a thought or memory. You only have awareness of yourself, nothing else. Every one of us go through this Sushupti state for a brief period during our sleep. If you are able to sleep for a few hours, 100% guarantee, at least for a few minutes you went into Sushupti. That is why you feel very restful. Every time you feel very restful when you wake up, it is because you had significant Sushupti experience. Why? External objects, external thoughts, etc. are distraction. They are the ones, they are not the ones which will complete you. Actually, they are the ones which subtract you. We have a wrong notion that I am not complete with this, not complete without this, I am not complete without you. That is the wrong notion. Because they subtract you. In Sushupti, because none of it exists, you feel yourself. But still, the notion that I exist as different from others, this notion continues, and you also have a faint remembrance of that bliss you got. But in the Turiya state, it is the fourth state. Jagrat number 1, Swapna number 2, Sushupti number 3. Turiya literally means fourth state of consciousness. Nothing remains. That is what you get when you rise Kundalini through the Sushumna Nadi, avoiding the tracks of Ida and Pingla, rise up and up and up and take it to Sahasrara. And symbolically it is told that Shiva is there for Shakti to come and mate. Why mating? Because that is the process of destruction of duality. There are no two things. They fuse. That is called mating. What is duality? Your identification as different from your Atma is one kind of duality. You being different from everything else around you is another form of duality. This is gone. In fact, people have experimented even with sex and found out at extreme points during the sexual process, you lose your identity. You lose that. You no longer part of the process which is going on. That is why sex is so attractive, so interesting. That is why there is a branch of Tantra called Vamachara Tantra in India, where sex is used as a means of this recognition, self-realization. And I can talk about it a little later, some other time. It is slightly out of context for our conversation. But what I'm trying to say is, all these activities, whichever way you arrive at it, is towards destroying this notion of different entities and you being different and things like that. Padartha Abhava is the objective of all these things. Somebody want to ask something?
Yes, Mr. Rao, so sorry, I apologize to interrupt. Is this would be the chapter 248, Tattva Dvandva Anibgataha, what you're talking about, this Turiya state, the fourth state of consciousness, would be chapter 248.
248. We have not gone there yet.
Yeah, I know, but you know, this is one of my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, correct. Exactly. Correct.
The 46, 47, and 48.
Correct. Tato dvandva an abhigataha. Exactly correct. What happens is 248 says the duality no longer trouble you is what it says. Because you destroy the notion of duality.
And can I say something, Mr. Rao?
Go ahead.
You know, with I mean, I obviously I don't know too much about this, but the 46, which is Stira Sukhamasana, and then the 47 and the 48 are my three favorite sutras here, because one comes after the other, and it gives a person like who is absolutely no experience and absolutely knows nothing about these things and meditation and the techniques and how to do it, but it gives kind of like a hope, a light of the hope that if I just become really steady and stable and in ease in a posture, and just keep going, and with the right effort, intelligence, and then focusing on the endless entity, for in my case in the sky, it can get to a stage of, on its own, it leads to a stage of chapter 48, which is getting rid of dualities.
That is true. For example, I mean, there are several. Again, this is the Vicharana portion of it. For example, you could say actually there's only one sutra in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which is Yogascha Chitta Vitrinu. That's all. Nothing else. Everything is an explanation of this line. That is one way of presenting. Another way of presenting is take only these 46, 47, and 48 and say that you have a good posture, right? Then with a firm posture, you do your dhyana pranayama. If you do that, automatically the duality vanishes. So likewise, that is paraphrasing the Yoga Sutra. I agree with you there. I mean, you can paraphrase a Yoga Sutra of 4 chapters several different ways. It's one of it. I agree with you. That's what I'm trying to explain here, right? That's precisely what Kundalini Yoga does.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other question? Yes, please.
So I hear the truth in everything that you say, and there's a response. There's a knowing, a recognition of truth. But then there's another part that's part of the world. So as part of, there's this sense of how do I reconcile the two? They're like, and then the mind, there's many minds. There's the mind that's so mechanical and so reactive, all habits I picked up as from childhood, through my parents, friends, school. And so there are these automatic reactions to things, but that's not really who I am. And so there's this knowing. And when you say solar plexus, that's where I feel the truth is. So that's where I know there's something so deep in there, but the question is, how can I remain connected to that more and more and more through what the practice, everything you said rings true, but how do I live it? How do I be it? How do I integrate that?
Yes. This is again the answer is same as what I gave to Meryl. What you're seeking is sthita prajnatva. You get an understanding of this, and you get an experience of mostly other, right? Other things you do, other issues, etc., other desires, etc., is there. So how do we reconcile is the question you keep often asking, and also how do I ensure that I stay connected forever? That will happen only in sthita prajnatva state. In the 7 stages of knowledge which you described, you keep trying and keep practicing and keep practicing, and one day Ishvara will grant you the sthita prajnatva. When that happens, the other things which you talk about will vanish, because you have got padartha anubhava yoga there. Then they will no longer bother you, even if it is happening. I'm not saying you may not stop at all being a mom or a wife. You may not. But they're no longer a source of distraction. The point is, the problem is not they are there. The problem is you are getting distracted. They are not the problem. Honestly speaking, you are the problem. Your attitude is the problem. Your behavior is the problem, not them. Therefore, when Ishvara grants that, automatically, even though you're in the midst Even though you continue to be a mother and so on and so forth, none of that is a distraction because your connection with is what you have, Ishvara in you, does not actually it never goes. Only thing is you forget about it. Therefore, you continue to experience Ishvara's presence even as you are cooking, even as you are talking to somebody, doing your work, etc. You still feel that connection which you talk about all the time. It's a very good point you mentioned. As long as you don't forget the connection, others don't matter. Again, for some of us who know, who read about Krishna's Rasa Leela games, etc., where he was dancing, singing, and music, etc., with 20 different 30 Gopika girls, women, married women, and each of them used to feel Krishna is only with me, not with others. Each one of them, but he was with everybody. But there was only one Krishna. All of them are married, they had family. A lot of beautiful poems are there written about how they, some of them left the milk boiling on the stove, they leave in abandonment because they hear the Krishna's flute. They abandon all that and go. Somebody has been serving old parents, brushing the legs of old parents, they abandon and go so on. Graphically, they explain. The notion being when that connection comes, all these things become here.
Yes, but I forget. I forget.
Yes, you do. All of us do, not only you. For which we have to wait for Ishvara patiently. One day, Ishvara will grant us that. We cannot force Ishvara. The best thing is the fact that you know that connect exists because you experience something, that is a tremendous progress. That is phenomenal. That means you already gone 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe only 6 and 7. You're jumping between 6 and 7, or 5 and 6. Let's forget about 5 and 6 at least. That's a great stuff. I mean, even in normal life, people say in professional and regular life, people always look back and feel encouraged how much progress you have made, rather than look forward and say, "Oh my God, I'm still so much to go." And
Yeah.
stop you on the tracks. Again, I'm telling you, I gain nothing by saying this. I gain nothing from you people. You're far ahead. I can assure you. You're far ahead. I'm saying this, hoping that this reassurance will at least make you feel a little more calmer and not worry that you're not born as a man yogi in Himalayas. This notion that you have to be a man yogi in Himalayas is wrong. 100% wrong. Not even 1% right. Being close to Ishvara is the only valid point.
Mr. Rao, there is just one sitting behind you from the Himalayas, probably. One of these on the picture, what you had.
Well, I promise to bring you every time some new place. This is Varanasi, the place of Shiva. All of you know very Varanasi, Banaras, Kashi as it is called. So this yogi is rowing the boat on the Ganga River. So it's not Himalayas, it's Varanasi, Kashi. I'm trying to keep my promise that every time I'll bring a new place from India and show you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any comment from Angela?
No comments, Paddy. I'll just listen in today.
Good. So I think I want to stop now because I think this is I think all of you I can see you're trying to kind of internally trying to see the explanation I gave, how you experience some of it, most of it. I think I see you very pensive. That's a very important thing. And if you want to talk about it, I mean, people don't normally talk about it, but I talk about it in this session because you people are engaged in this process. So I'm sharing some of these things. Therefore, if not today, next day, next time at least, if possible, if you're okay, share your experience. Are you feeling that you're expanding? Are you feeling you're spinning? Are you feeling that you're a bottle? Again, I'm using this word to make a point, not that physically a bottle, as if you're a big bottle, a jar, and extremely cold, not a hurtful cold, but pleasant cold water is filled in you. You'll get you as if you're getting filled with a beautiful, fantastic, cool water. You will get that feeling, or you feel that the whole when you close your eyes and when the Kundalini rises, you see that blue waves expanding. In front of you, blue and blue is absolute blue. It spread across. You see that, or you can see the bright, glorious, yellow-colored Narayana here. You may not know it is Narayana, but you will feel that light. These are all some of the things. If you want to share openly, you share, because why am I saying this? Because I want to reassure you, saying that yes, Mira says I must practice. Yes, you are practicing, but this doubt will not go away. Doubt will only shift. I'm practicing a lot. I'm doing a yoga a lot. I'm doing pranayama, all kind of pranayama a lot. But am I progressing? That is the real question. The real question is not am I practicing more? The real question is am I progressing? How do you know you're progressing? If you're progressing, you will feel one or more of whatever I've said. And Patanjali will probably talk a lot more about various indicators which show progress. If you feel one or more of it, that means you're progressing. You should stop doubt. Self-doubt can be the biggest hurdle on the path. Walking the path confidently, head high, without stopping, even when you think progress has not been made, is the key. Because logically speaking, even assuming you have not made progress, stopping it is not going to assure progress. It's contrary. Continuing it, who knows? One day Ishvara will bless you 5%. You will make 5% progress. If Ishvara blesses you 50%, you will make 50% progress. It's up to Ishvara to decide how much progress you should make in this world. Not up to us. What is up to us is only making progress, effort, progress. That's all. And this is probably one of the questions which Miran was asking also. In fact, Patanjali himself has told earlier, right? In chapter 1, he has told that, don't worry, whatever you do, it has got proportional progress. You will make proportional result will be there. And when you die, that result will follow you, is what Patanjali himself has told. And Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita very clearly. Yes, indeed, true, Krishna says. If there are a million people, only 10 or 15 will even attempt. And out of the 10 or 15 people, maybe only 2 or 3 will make some progress. And out of the 2 or 3 people, maybe only one person will succeed. But fact remains, the 10 people who make the journey, who start the process, every step they make has its own reward, and that reward will follow them. So we see assurance given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. We see such assurance given in Vedas, which is no other. And we see texts like Patanjali Yoga Sutra giving the same assurance. Therefore, we must take it as correct. In fact, today morning only in another session which I was having with a scholar, which I do every Sunday morning, he joins from India, Bangalore. That is the point you are stressing. That is, it is called prasiddhi as a concept. If different people who are trustworthy at different times in different places say the same thing, you must take it as fact, whether you are able to see the evidence or not. This concept of prasiddhi, a means of validating a postulate. We are discussing metaphysics of recording and uploading. So you mentioned that's a very important concept here. Therefore, we see here Krishna saying it in Bhagavad Gita. Even if you don't succeed, every step of progress is reward by itself, you carry forward. And we already said, read in chapter 1 of Patanjali saying the same thing. Definitely Krishna and Patanjali, we can trust. You don't have to trust Pandit Rao. but you can trust Krishna or Patanjali. Therefore, if Padirao quotes Krishna or Patanjali, you are not believing Padirao, but you are believing Krishna and Patanjali, which is the right thing to do. Therefore, do not ever despair. Do not ever feel bad that you are not born as a man in Himalayas, a man yogi in Himalayas. Do not, please. I beg you. You made tremendous progress, according to me. Okay, with this thought, I think I would like to close today, and we will see next. Obviously, next Sunday is going to be the other Vedanta group. Probably in the sessions, Patanjali Yoga Sutra sessions, since others are not joining, we may not be needing Q&A separately. I will probably every time I announce Yoga Sutra class, I will not have the Q&A session. We can start at 5:30 like before, right? Yeah. I know that I caused some confusion to Mary because I said Q&A session, but suddenly because others did not join. Miral joined. I thought, why waste time? Because Miral is so keen. I mean, she wants 24 hours. She wants to talk only Patanjali Yoga Sutra. She keeps telling my daughter also, your dad has to go faster and faster, etc. So I was with my daughter last week and she was telling me. I said, what can I do? I'm a very slow guy. What to do?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Because for me, it's very important that we look at it, every statement, every idea, we look at it from several angles because we are different type of people. We will not look at the same way. Therefore, we have to look at several different things and unless mind becomes purer, intellect becomes purer, unless we are at it, which is what Meryl keeps saying all the time, unless we do all those things, it is going to be very hard to transcend the padarthas. But I see all of you do that. Therefore, let me assure you, you guys are doing very, very well. Right? All right. Shall we close for the day?
Okay.
Any comment, anything else you want to say or? All right, then once again, this is Banaras, Kashi, Varanasi, is the Ganga River. The yogis, you can, if you go there, you'll everywhere you can see there's all kind of sadhus and monks and yogis who all kind of, I mean, the kind of practices they follow is so very varied and bizarre. Some of them are bizarre, actually speaking. Agoris are they have a very, very strange lifestyle. Agori yogis, Naga sadhus have got their own lifestyle, which is absolutely difficult for us to follow. But doesn't matter. Each one of us has our own way we follow that. But if you go there, you get to see them. That's it's probably, it is considered the most sacred waterways in the whole world. That's what Puranas and others say. But science says it's probably one of the dirtiest waters in the world because of human beings polluting the river, etc., etc. But emotionally, it's so good. You take a dip, 3 dips you are supposed to take ritually. When you do the dip, your mind transforms. That is real. Absolutely. I used to live about maybe 100 miles east of this place. For 5 years I lived, and I've gone there a couple of times, and it's a transforming experience. One of the most dirtiest cities in the world, crowded cities, chaos, observed. Every life and death happens in the same location. You can see 1 foot away life is born, other for this side some corpse will be burning. You can see life and death together. And that experience of seeing life and death together shocks you and changes you. I mean, that's why they've designed probably like that. It's a great experience. And though I say it's not so important, by itself, it's a great experience to have. And luckily, the new government headed by Prime Minister Modi has cleaned up the city and made it much more amenable. Not that it's important, but it's much more cleaner now, I'm told, but it does not matter. It's a great experience to go there once. So this time I'm introducing you this Kashi, and that's where Lord Shiva is supposed to be walking up and down here all the time. And the belief is that if you go there and die there, you'll die there. The Shiva comes and then tells you the secret of liberation, liberates you. That is a belief there. So there are all kind of stories, etc. But this is what it is.
How
So-
do you spell it, Mr. Rao, the name of this place? How do you spell the name of the place?
Okay, it is called Kashi, Kashi.
Kashi.
There is cereal here. I think in Seattle area, you can see Kashi is a brand of cereals. The same Kashi.
Kasha.
Uh,
Yeah.
so therefore Kashi, and the Sanskrit they call it as Varanasi. But in English they call it as Kashi. You can Google. I will send some links so that you can Google and find out more about it. And summer is very hard. Like anywhere else in North Indian plain, therefore it's very oppressive. Some 100 degrees centigrade, 100 degrees Fahrenheit with 90% humidity. But winter that winter will be pleasant for you. Coming from New York City and New Jersey City, that winter will be probably 8 degrees, 6 degrees kind of a thing, which will be very nice for you. All right.
Thank you very much.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.